Good evening students, once again to this series of important questions and prediction for prelims 2024. So as you know, we are having polity and history session simultaneously together. So I am dealing with polity, and if you have seen earlier videos, we have completed these topics: historical acts, preamble, features of constitution, union territory, union and state executive. Citizenship we will see in current affair class. Okay, we have also current affair class for polity separately. So these topics are basically more recurrent topics which are asked. There will be few topics which will be dealt with current affairs. Okay, so today we will see parliament and state legislature. Okay, and try to complete high court and supreme court as well. Okay, so let us begin. So as far as union parliament concerned, we know union parliament consists of President, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Okay, this is the composition of parliament. So here in this case, I have divided this complete topic in three parts: composition, qualification, disqualification of members, then functioning of the parliament and legislative procedures. Okay, so in composition, qualification, disqualification. So what is parliament composed of? As you all, I already told you, it consists of President, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Composition of Rajya Sabha is given in article 80. Composition of Lok Sabha is given in article 81. Okay, 250 members, and here 550 members. Okay, this is composition. Now that means what are the number of members who are elected, what are the number of members who are nominated. That is the thing is given in the articles. What is another thing that we need to know is allocation. Allocation and breakup of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha seats. So what mean by allocation and breakup? So composition means these are the numbers that are present in Lok Sabha, these are numbers present in Rajya Sabha. Allocation and breakup means for Rajya Sabha, how many members are from Maharashtra, how many from Tamil Nadu, how many from Karnataka. That is allocation or breakup. Similarly, Lok Sabha. Okay, so in Lok Sabha, Maharashtra has 48 seats, Tamil Nadu has 39 seats. So that is the allocation breakup. So this breakup of Lok Sabha is given in Representation of People Act 1950 Schedule 1. So this is given in, this allocation breakup is given in, not given in constitution. This is given in Representation of People Act 1950 Schedule 1, and allocation of Rajya Sabha is given in Schedule 4 of constitution, directly given in the schedule. Okay. Then as we all know, Lok Sabha is a house which can be dissolved. Rajya Sabha is a permanent house. 1/3 member resign after every 3 years. Okay. So this 6-year membership, this is also mentioned in Representation of People Act 1951. This is 50, this is 51. Okay. So we will deal with these two acts, Representation of People Act 1950 and 51, in current affair class, because we are heading towards election. So we will see what are the details in this also. So but for now you should remember that allocation breakup is given for Lok Sabha in this act 1950 Representation People Act, and for Rajya Sabha given in Schedule 4, and the 6-year membership clause that is given in this act. Okay. So this is about composition and allocation breakup. Moving further, we have qualification. Now we all know qualification for Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha. In constitution what is given? Citizen of India, no office of profit, and age. Age means for Lok Sabha age should be 25 years, for Rajya Sabha age should be 30 years. This is what is given in constitution. What is not given in constitution and given in act. So qualification is mentioned in constitution, plus constitution also says whatever qualification mentioned by a parliamentary law. Parliamentary law can also decide qualification. So there is one law, again the same law, Representation of People Act 1951. This act says that you need to be elector in any parliamentary constituency, in any constituency, any constituency, you be it Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, you need to be a member of any constituency of any state, need not to be the same state. Okay, for example, I can give example of Dr. Manmohan Singh. He was Prime Minister. He was not from Lok Sabha, he is from Rajya Sabha, and that too from Assam. Rajya Sabha seat from Assam. So he need not to be elector from Assam. He must be elector from Punjab, but he can still contest the election. Previously, previously it was mandatory that to be a Rajya Sabha member you have to be elector in that particular state, but now that condition is removed. Okay, so this is about qualification. Then comes vacation of seats. So vacation of there are conditions where seats can be vacated. Vacation is different than absent. Absent means which are not absent. Vacant means either the member of parliament is dead or he has not been yet elected. The seat is vacant, not absent. Okay, so vacation of seat can happen. For example, a member is elected in Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha at the same time. This can be a condition. Okay, so if he do not resign from either of the house, his membership in Rajya Sabha will get cancelled. Okay, so he vacates a seat in Rajya Sabha. Second condition, now for example, last year Prime Minister Narendra Modi elected from two constituencies, Varanasi and one in Gujarat, and he was elected from both the seats. So he was simultaneously elected in Lok Sabha in two seats. So he has to resign in one of the seat within a speculated time, otherwise both the seats are lost. So there will be two seat vacancy in Lok Sabha. Third, if he is a member of Lok Sabha and get elected in Rajya Sabha, or if he is a member of Rajya Sabha gets elected in Lok Sabha, then the first house, this seat is lost. First house, this seat will be vacant. Automatically it will be vacant. Okay, if a Lok Sabha member get elected in Rajya Sabha, his Lok Sabha seat will be lost. Okay, and fourth, for example, a state MLA gets elected in Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. He has to decide within 14 days from where to resign. If he do not resign, his parliamentary ship will be gone. Okay, only what will remain is MLA. Okay, so these are the conditions for vacancy. Another condition for vacancy is 60 days absentee. 60 days if a member of parliament is absent without having a leave of the house, he will be said to be vacant. That seat will be said to be vacant. Okay, so this is about vacancy. Next is disqualification. So disqualification, there are two things in disqualification. Disqualification is a bit more important than other things. So if you have seen our PYQ series, I have told you about disqualification, but still we will revise it again here. For example, disqualification occurs via two ways. One way is Article 1021, and for state it is 192(1). Okay, and another is 1022. Okay, this is 10th schedule disqualification. This is 10th schedule disqualification. We will deal with this in current affair class. Forget about this for now. Main thing is this. So what is given in constitution? A member can be disqualified if he is after election. He can be disqualified if first, he is not a citizen of India, then he can be disqualified. Second, he is an undischarged insolvent, means he has debt and he is not able to repay it. Okay, basically he can be called as he is not able to repay his debt. Simply meaning of undischarged insolvent. Okay, then citizen of India, and there is unsound mind, then office of profit. If he is already in any other office of government, then he is disqualified from being a member of parliament. Fifth, any other act. If disqualification is mentioned in any other act of the parliament, via those act he can also be disqualified, any other act. And this act is again the same act, Representation of People Act 1951. Okay, so this 1951 act 1951 Act stipulates some conditions for disqualification again. For example, first, if a person is convicted in an offence for more than 2 years, then his seat in that particular assembly will be lost at the time he gets convicted, okay, and he cannot contest election for these 2 years plus 6, that is total 8 years. So this is this was the case with Rahul Gandhi. Mr. Rahul Gandhi was disqualified from the house for certain reason. We will not go into that, but his membership was restored after this judgment was reversed in Supreme Court, okay. So if a person is convicted for more than 2 years, then 2 plus 6, 8 years, he cannot contest any election. Second, if it is a heinous crime, also against women, against children, so it is not necessary to get convicted for more than 2 years. If it is a heinous crime, he by that time he will be disqualified, okay. Third, if it is in interest of government projects, okay, then if he has not disclosed his or her election expenses within 30 days, he has to disclose his election expenses within 30 days, otherwise he will lose his seat, okay. So these are few things. There are other things also, for example, Corruption Act. If he is convicted in Corruption Act, then if it is convicted for dowry, etc., those things also it will cause him disqualification, okay. Now these are conditions for disqualification. Now who will disqualify him? So under this act, for example, this is for union and this is for state. So for union, president will disqualify that member. President will disqualify. For state, governor will disqualify. But this is not a discretion. They will act according to instructions or suggestion given by Election Commission of India. Okay. So Election Commission of India will investigate on these things. They will ask president or governor to disqualify this person. Then they will disqualify it. Okay. Under 10th schedule, he will be disqualified by the speaker. We will see that in current affair class. Okay. So this is regarding disqualification. Then we comes to duration of the house. We all know duration of the house is 5 years. For your information, 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act made it 6 years. But then in 44th Amendment Act, it was brought back to 5 years. Okay. Sessions, we have seen in previous class only sessions. There should be maximum 6 months gap between 2 sessions. Okay. So there is nothing mentioned in the constitution that there has to be 3 sessions in every year. Okay. Then officers of the parliament. Officers of the parliament, who are the officers? First is for Lok Sabha, speaker, deputy speaker. For Rajya Sabha, chairman, who is a vice president, and deputy chairman. These are the officers of parliament. Okay. Now election procedure, you all know. Election of these members by simple majority among themselves, they will elect, except for vice president. Vice president is elected by both the houses. By both houses. We have seen in previous class, he is elected by both the houses, both elected members as well as nominated members. So for him it is different, but for others, general simple majority, they will be elected. But how they are removed? This is election. How they are removed? Removal of this. Again, for vice president, the removal is different. We have already seen it in previous class. For speaker, for deputy speaker, for deputy chairman, and even for vice president, there has to be a notice given, 14-day notice for all. 14-day notice has to be given before pushing forward any motion for removal of these officers. Okay, 14-day notice has to be given. Then these 3, deputy chairman, deputy speaker and speaker, these are removed by effective majority. effective majority in their particular houses. Effective majority in Lok Sabha for these two, effective majority in Rajya Sabha for deputy chairman. What is effective majority? For example, 250 is the strength of Rajya Sabha. If 10 members are vacant, then what is remaining? 240. Vacant, I am not saying absent, vacant. What is remaining is 240. Among these 240, irrespective of people being absent or present, there has to be a majority. That is 121 should be the number. Then only you can disqualify or remove these officers. This is called as effective majority. Simple majority means you will also minus absentees from this. Okay, that will be a simple majority. But you will not minus absentees. You will just minus the vacancies and then calculate the majority. Vice President, we have already seen effective majority in Rajya Sabha and simple majority in Lok Sabha, and he will be disqualified. So this is regarding officers. Then one, if there is, I have not mentioned here, leader of opposition is also one of the office. It is not mentioned in constitution, but it is a statutory office. By statute, it is a office, okay, and it is as good as cabinet minister. Privileges of members. So members being present in Lok Sabha or any assembly, for them to be open up in their request for demands for their constituencies, etc., they are given certain privileges. For example, they are not not accused for anything they say or they read in the parliament. Okay, they can say whatever they want in parliament. They cannot be accused of that. This is given in constitution. What else? So basically, right to speak or freedom of speech. You can say freedom of speech is, there is an extension of freedom. Okay, it is extended freedom of speech. For normal people, freedom of speech has some conditions applied to it. We will see in fundamental rights, but for these members there is extended freedom of speech. They cannot be accused of anything said in the parliament. Okay. Second, if a member is involved in committees or any meetings of the parliament, then 40 days before such meeting, 40 days before and 40 days after such meetings, he cannot be, any civil cases cannot be started against him. Okay, 40 days before and 40 days after such meetings or committee. Okay, civil proceedings cannot be started. But this is only for civil proceedings, not for criminal proceedings. Not for criminal or neither for preventive measures. Preventive proceedings can also be carried on. Criminal proceedings can also be carried on. Only for civil proceedings, this is the privilege. And there are a few privileges again, but these are the main privileges. Then we'll see lawmaking. So lawmaking, general lawmaking in the parliament. A bill, for example, is introduced in a house. For example, let's say Lok Sabha. A bill will be introduced after taking leave of the house, means permission of the house. Okay, and whenever it is introduced, it will be printed in the official gazette. Okay, then first reading within Lok Sabha, first reading of the bill, a superficial reading of the bill. The bill will, in first reading, will go to standing committee. Look, I am going fast here because this is a revision class. Okay, this is not an exact polity class, so you should be with your notes while doing this class. Okay, first reading will go to bill will go to standing committee. Second reading bill will go to select committees. Third reading it will be passage of the bill. For example, yes or no, that's it, no discussion. Third reading. After this process has been followed, the bill will go to Rajya Sabha and similar process will be followed. If okay, then we will go to president and president assent and it will be a law. This is a general method, a simple majority. Joint sitting. Article 108 mentions joint sitting. When joint sitting will take place? If for example, a second house, if a bill is introduced in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha rejects it, Then this is one condition for joint sitting. Both Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha will sit together. Second condition for joint sitting, 6 months have passed. 6 months have passed after the bill has introduced in Rajya Sabha. It has passed from Lok Sabha, went into Rajya Sabha, and 6 months have elapsed. Then also there is nothing on the bill. Then there is a condition for joint sitting. It can be a condition for joint sitting. Third, if there is any amendment, for example, Lok Sabha has passed a bill and there is some amendment which is recommended by Rajya Sabha, but Lok Sabha is not happy with that amendment. It is a conflict. Then also joint sitting can happen. Further, joint sitting can happen after general election. After general election, governor or president will address the house in a joint sitting. And after in each year, first session of the financial year, again governor president will address the house in a joint sitting. Okay, so these are a few conditions where joint sitting is possible. Joint sitting, whenever there is joint sitting, who will preside over the house? Speaker will preside over the house, and all the rules of Lok Sabha will be applied. Okay, for joint sitting, both the house will sit, but the officer will be speaker. If speaker is absent, then deputy speaker. If he is also absent, then deputy chairman. Okay. Chairman of Rajya Sabha will never sit on joint sitting, because chairman of Rajya Sabha or vice president, chairman of Rajya Sabha, he is not a member of any house. He is not a member of any house. Okay. He is not a member of Rajya Sabha. He is just a chairman. He is not a member of the house. Okay. First, then there is money bill. Okay, so we have seen money bill questions are being asked frequently in prelims. So we'll just see what is money bill. So money bill is a special kind of bill which is actually defined in Parliament, defined in Constitution. Article 110 defines money bill. Defines money bill. So what it says? Any bill which is consulting with, for example, imposition of taxes, okay, imposition, abolition, etc. of taxes. Second, government guarantees or debts, government guarantees, borrowings or debts, okay. Then related to custodian of Consolidated Fund of India, Contingency Fund of India. Okay, then appropriation out of Consolidated Fund of India. Then expenditure charged on Consolidated Fund of India. Then receipt, all the receipts which are accepted on Consolidated Fund of India, Contingency Fund of India, Public Account of India, and further any other matter as per the Constitution. Okay, so these are the few conditions. If bill is related with this, then we will call it as a money bill. This is definition given in the Constitution. Now how money bill will pass? Money bill will have to first go in. Money bill will be only introduced in Lok Sabha, only Lok Sabha. We are talking about money bill only in Lok Sabha, and that too after President recommendation. After President's recommendation. Now Lok Sabha, part of money bill will be voted, part will be discussed only. We will see what are those parts. Lok Sabha will send that bill to Rajya Sabha for 14 days. Rajya Sabha can only give recommendation, nothing else. Rajya Sabha cannot vote, nothing. They can only give recommendations which Lok Sabha may or may not consider. Then will be coming back to Lok Sabha, and Lok Sabha will pass it. Rajya Sabha has minimum power in money bills. Okay, means it Rajya Sabha will not accept, reject. Even if it accepts or rejects, Lok Sabha will pass the money bill. Rajya Sabha has minimum powers in money bills. So this is how money bill will be passed. Further, after coming from Rajya Sabha to Lok Sabha. Now the bill goes to President. President cannot return this money bill. He cannot return. Means article, this will be seen in article 111. President cannot return money bill. He either can reject or pass. That is the only two options available for money bill. So this is how money bill will be passed in the parliament. Now there are some types of money bills. If you have seen the PYQ session, I have already told you about some types of money bills. For example, money bill. Money bill can be categorized into few parts. For example, a broader term for money bills, we can say financial bills. Financial bills can be categorized into money bill, then financial bill A and financial bill B. Okay, this is not given in constitution. Okay, so money bill consists of what? We have seen all the 6-7 condition. If those are followed, it is a money bill. Money bill have two parts. There is finance bill, another one is appropriation bill. Means this is related to receiving of money. This is related to expenditure of money. Okay. So finance bill, appropriation bill are also money bill. Then become financial A and financial B. What is financial A bill? This is a bill. Now before going to that, a bill can only be said as a money bill first if satisfy the condition for article 110. We already seen there are 6-7 conditions. Second, speaker has to sign. It depends upon the speaker whether to call it as a money bill or not. If he says it's a money bill, then it will be a money bill. If not, then it will not be a money bill. Okay. So if a bill contains items of those 6 items we have already discussed in article 110, but still speaker has not given his assent as a money bill, then it will not be treated as money bill. Okay, and that will be called as financial bill category A. In this condition also, it will be introduced in Lok Sabha after recommendation of President, and further process will be same as ordinary bill. Okay, Rajya Sabha can vote on it. Everyone can vote on it. If amendments are there, if problems are there in the amendments, it can go to joint sitting also. Okay, further process is same. Now comes financial bill B. Now this does not contain anything under article 110, but still there are things which are money related. Okay, so that is financial bill B. So these bills this is as good as ordinary bill, except President recommendation is required in the second reading. We have seen the stages: first reading, second reading, third reading. So this financial bill will require President recommendation at second reading stage. Okay, so these are types of money bills. Okay, so now we will see some questions. Which of the following statements is correct about money bill in the parliament? The President of India certifies all money bill. President does not certify. Just now I have told you it is Speaker of the House certifies that it is a money bill or not. Okay, so money bill has to be something around related to article 110 and certified by Speaker, then only it will be called as money bill. So this is wrong. A minister who is a member of Rajya Sabha cannot introduce a money bill in the parliament. Who is minister? A minister who is a member of Rajya Sabha cannot introduce a money bill in the parliament. We will see it. President can withhold his assent of money bill but cannot return it for reconsideration. Yes. Can withhold his assent but cannot return the bill for reconsideration to the houses. This is correct. All financial bills are money bills, but all money bills are not financial bills. I have already told you the chart we have seen. So this statement is also wrong. A minister who is a member of Rajya Sabha cannot introduce money bill in the house. This is also wrong, because minister can be present in both the houses. Yes, if I say a member of Rajya Sabha cannot introduce, but minister can introduce. Okay, he will introduce not in Rajya Sabha, it will Lok Sabha only, but he is a member of Rajya Sabha. That is not a problem. So this is also wrong. This is also wrong. Answer is C. Which one of the following statement is correct in the context of prorogation of the session? Okay, so this prorogation we have discussed this in previous class. Prorogation means a session is, there are 3 sessions in general: winter session, monsoon session and budget session. So at the last day of the session, president will prorogue the house, end of the session. Okay, president will prorogue the house. So President of India cannot prorogue the house while the house is in session. He can do it. Okay, so this is wrong. Prorogation does not affect the bills pending before the Lok Sabha. Now this matters regarding to the pending bills. Okay, we will see. Prorogation does not affect the bills pending before the Lok Sabha. Yes, it does not affect. The pending notices other than those for introducing bills does not lapse for prorogation. The pending notices, just which of the following statement is correct in the context of prorogation of the house? Okay. So President of India cannot prorogue, he can prorogue. This is a wrong statement. In general, the presiding officer of the house issues a notification prorogation. This is also wrong. Pending notices other than those for introducing bills does not lapse on prorogation. Actually, these also lapse. This also lapse. This also do not lapse. Point I am saying is that we will see it again. So these statements are false. This is easy to guess. Okay. Other 2 statements: prorogation does not affect bills pending before the Lok Sabha. Prorogation does not affect it. Dissolution of house affects the bills in the Lok Sabha. Prorogation does not. So this is the correct answer. Pending notices other than those for introducing bills. Actually, this statement would have been correct if this bracket would not have been there. Okay. All the notices, it does not lapse on prorogation. Any notice will not lapse on prorogation. Okay? So this is also wrong. This is also wrong. This is also wrong. Answer is only A. So bill in the Lok Sabha will lapse in few conditions. For example, a bill lapses means, for example, bill is pending in the house. In some conditions, it will get lapse. Means if that bill has to be introduced, then it has to be again reintroduced in the parliament. Okay, when it lapses, first, if a bill is pending in Lok Sabha, bill is pending in Lok Sabha and Lok Sabha dissolves, it will lapse. Lok Sabha dissolve, the bill will lapse. Next, Lok Sabha has to reintroduce this bill. Now, pending in Lok Sabha means either it can be introduced in Lok Sabha or introduced in Rajya Sabha. That does not matter. If a bill is introduced in Rajya Sabha, it goes into Lok Sabha and it is pending, and Lok Sabha dissolves, it will lapse. So okay, so this bill might come from Rajya Sabha or Lok Sabha itself. If it is pending in Lok Sabha, it will lapse. Bill lapses in this condition. This is the major condition in which bill will lapse. Yeah, this is the main condition, not other condition. Other conditions bill generally do not lapse. Okay, so we will go further. A person shall be disqualified for being elected as a member of parliament. Okay, this is a disqualification question. If he holds any office of profit under the union or a state government. I've already told you, office of profit is a condition for disqualification. So this statement is correct. If he is of unsound mind and stands so declared by the court, this is also one of the condition. These are directly given in the constitution. If he fails to lodge an account of his election expenses within the time, this is also one of the condition. These conditions are in constitution, and this is given in that RP Act of 1951. If he is convicted for promoting enmity between different groups of the offence of bribery, this is also one condition. All the 4 conditions are correct. Answer is 1, 2, 3, 4. Which of the following articles deals with annual budget? Now we have seen article 110 deals with money bill. Money bill is a part of annual budget. This is not annual budget. Annual budget is this. Annual financial statement. Article 112. Answer is, sorry. Answer is C. Okay. Article 123 deals with ordinances. 111, I need to check. Oh yeah, 111 is the article which deals with when a bill passed by both the houses reach to president. Now what president will do? Okay. Means suspensive veto is mentioned in article 111. Next, here answer is 112. A candidate contesting an election to the Rajya Sabha from a particular state should be an elector in that particular state. I have already told you this was a condition before, now it is not a condition. He can be a member, he can be elector in any state and he can contest the Rajya Sabha election. A member of scheduled caste or scheduled tribes cannot contest a seat in a Lok Sabha for reserved for them. Member of scheduled caste or scheduled tribes cannot contest a seat in the Lok Sabha which is not reserved. Now you must know seats in Lok Sabha reserved for SC and ST. Okay. So in these seats only SC and ST candidates are allowed, but in other seats they can also participate. Okay. It is not that only general candidate will participate. So this is also wrong. They can contest a seat in general category. In Rajya Sabha there is no reservation, if for your information. In Rajya Sabha seats are reserved for, no, this is completely wrong. Rajya Sabha seats are not reserved. So none of the statement is correct. Which is not correct, then answer will be all three are not correct. Ordinance making power of the president. Okay, so this question should not be here, but still okay, fine, no problem. This is a union executive question. It can repeal or modify any act of the parliament. Yes. It can be issued retrospectively. Yes. Backdated. It can be issued on subjects enumerated in the state list under ordinary circumstances. No. Under emergency circumstances, not in ordinary. This question we have already seen in previous class, so I will not dwell much time on it. Under which of the following circumstances parliament can legislate on state subject? So this is one interesting thing. There are few conditions, you know, parliament can only legislate on union subjects, not on state list, and state government can legislate on state list. Concurrent, both can legislate. So, but parliament can also make laws on state list in certain conditions. What are those conditions? For example, there is a condition in which, for example, under article 249, if Rajya Sabha passes a resolution, Rajya Sabha passes a resolution for doing this, for making an act on state list by 2/3 majority. Simple, means 2/3 present and voting. 2/3 present, this is a different kind of majority, and voting. If Rajya Sabha passes a resolution to legislate on a state subject, then parliament can legislate on a state subject. Okay, this is one condition. Then there is article 252. If two or more states pass a resolution for this to make a state law to be legislated by parliament, then parliament can legislate laws. So you need to have two or more states to pass such a resolution. Then article 250, this is in case of national emergency. National emergency, state list automatically behaves as a concurrent list, so parliament can pass a legislation on state list. And further, article 253, for example, if any international commitment is there, then parliament can legislate on state list without considering the state. Okay, they need not to ask any state, they can directly go for it. So these are the four conditions. In this condition, when two or more states pass a resolution for such a condition to make parliament legislate on a state list, this is a permanent surrender of power. This is a permanent surrender of power. Means from whatever subjects that they have passed on to parliament, now they cannot legislate on it. Okay, and if parliament has passed that, then they cannot repeal, amend, nothing. States cannot do anything on those subjects then. This is a permanent surrender of power. Only this is a permanent surrender. Okay, this will resolution only till resolution is applicable. Till that date, this will be applicable. This also applicable only 1 year at a time. 6 months after national emergency is removed, condition will be normalized back. Okay, so this is a permanent giving up of power, this 252 article. So let us see what is in the question. Parliament can legislate on state list when the Rajya Sabha passes a resolution to that effect. Yes, we have seen. When two or more states pass such a resolution. Yes. To implement international agreements, treaties, conventions. Yes, this is article 253. Rajya Sabha, this is 249. Two or more states, this is 252. During proclamation of the president's rule in a state, this is also a condition. Okay. So all these are conditions where Parliament can pass. State emergency means what? There is no state government. Parliament has to do. So answer is all four. Consider the following statements about leader of the opposition. Leader of the opposition is not mentioned in the constitution. We have discussed, yes, it is not mentioned in the constitution, but still it is a statutory position. They are entitled to salary allowances equivalent to cabinet minister. This is also right. Both statements are correct. Now this is again a lapse of bill case. We have seen when does a bill lapse? A bill pending in the Rajya Sabha but not passed by Lok Sabha. Now see, bill has not crossed the Lok Sabha itself. Then the bill will not lapse. Okay. In this condition, bill will not lapse. So this is correct. We are asking bill does not lapse in which condition? When a bill is crossing Lok Sabha, then the condition arises whether bill will be lapsing or not. A bill passed by Lok Sabha but pending in the Rajya Sabha, this will also get lapsed. This bill because it has crossed what? It has crossed Lok Sabha. It will get lapse. We are asking does not lapse. So this is incorrect. Okay. Pending in Rajya Sabha, not passed by Lok Sabha, this will not lapse. Passed by Lok Sabha, it will lapse. Passed by both the houses, returned by the president for reconsideration, this will not lapse. This is correct. After bill has reached president, then it will not lapse. Okay. This is again one condition. A bill pending in the Lok Sabha, which was transmitted to it by the Rajya Sabha, this will also lapse. So this is also wrong. So only two statements are correct. So but the bill will not lapse in which condition? Bill will not lapse when it is in Rajya Sabha and not passed by Lok Sabha. Not passed by Lok Sabha. Then bill will not lapse. Second condition, it has reached president. President recommends the bill back. If president sends the bill back for reconsideration, it will not lapse. If president says that there will be a joint sitting. If president says there will be a joint sitting, and in between that period, if a Lok Sabha is dissolved, the bill will not lapse. Okay. And further condition, yeah, these are the three main conditions. And also fourth is prorogation of the house. If a house is prorogued, prorogue means session is ended. Prorogation of the house, bill will not lapse. Bill will lapse only if Lok Sabha is dissolved, not prorogued. Next, all legally authorized payments on the behalf of Government of India are made out of Consolidated Fund of India. Yes, this is correct. Payment from Public Account of India can be made without parliamentary appropriation. This is also correct. Contingency Fund of India is held by Finance Secretary on behalf of President of India. This is also correct. Basically, what you should get from this question is parliamentary approval is required only when you need to get payment out of Consolidated Fund of India. Parliamentary approval is not required for public account, not required for contingency fund. Okay? Only for consolidated fund. Speaker of the Lok Sabha, he can be removed by resolution passed by effective majority. Okay, we have already seen effective majority of all the members of the parliament. No, not all the members, only Lok Sabha. So this is wrong. He resigns by writing to the President of India. This is also wrong. Speaker speaker resigns to deputy speaker. Okay, deputy speaker will give resignation application to speaker. Deputy chairman of Rajya Sabha, he will resign to chairman, and chairman of Rajya Sabha will resign to president. Okay, so among the officers only chairman, vice president will resign to president, others will resign among themselves. Speaker to deputy speaker, deputy speaker to speaker, deputy chair to chair, chair to president. So first is wrong. Only Lok Sabha, he resigns by writing to president. No. When a resolution for office removal is under consideration for the house, he cannot take part in proceedings. He can take part in the proceedings of the house. Only thing is that he cannot vote in the first instance. Whenever the Lok Sabha is dissolved, basically he can, this condition is when a resolution is for removal, he can sit in the house, he can vote as a general member. Okay, because he is a member of the house. We are talking about speaker. If we are talking about chairman of Rajya Sabha, this condition would be wrong. Okay, because he is not a member of Rajya Sabha. Speaker, this condition is right. Whenever the Lok Sabha is dissolved, the speaker does not vacate his office. He can take part. Sorry, he can take part. This is not his wrong. Okay? Whenever the Lok Sabha is dissolved, a speaker does not vacate his office and continues till the newly elected Lok Sabha meets. This is correct. So when a resolution for his removal is under consideration, he can take part in the proceedings. Written is not. Therefore, that's a wrong statement. And speaker continue his office until new Lok Sabha is in the office. With reference to provisions and procedures, various types of bills, consider the following. How many of the above bills can be introduced only in Lok Sabha? Okay. Only in Lok Sabha. We are talking only in, means they cannot be introduced in Rajya Sabha. Ordinary bill, it can be introduced in Rajya Sabha. Money bill, yes, this can only be introduced in Lok Sabha. Okay, so this must be A and this must be B. Okay, this printing mistake is there. Financial bill A, again they are also only in Lok Sabha. B, they can be introduced in Rajya Sabha. So only 2, answer is B. Consider the following statement regarding sessions of the parliament. The constitution provides that the speaker shall from time to time summon, prorogue house of the parliament. Prorogation or summoning of the house. Summoning means calling the house. Prorogation means end of the session. Prorogation and summoning of the house is not done by the speaker. It is done by president. Okay. So this is wrong. Dissolution by president ends life of both the houses of parliament. This is also wrong. Life of both the houses is not in danger. Only Lok Sabha can be dissolved, not Rajya Sabha. Adjournment refers to suspension of the sitting of the parliament by the presiding officer for a definite period of time. This is right. Summoning of house and prorogation, that is end of the session. This is done by speaker or officer, presiding officer. While dissolving of Lok Sabha dissolution is all, I have written wrong. Summoning of the house, prorogation of the house, that is ending of the session, and dissolution of Lok Sabha, this is done by president. While adjournment of the house, adjournment means break. Adjournment motion means there is a condition that a time is given when the session will be resuming. You have seen in the news, adjourned by 2 hours, adjourned by 3 hours, adjourned for the day. So basically time is given. For what time the assembly is adjourned. Adjournment, and another thing is adjournment sine die. This is a type of adjournment, but this will not specify the time. Okay, this specifies the time, adjourned for the day. This will not specify anything. These both things are done by speaker or the presiding officer. presiding officer. This thing are done by the president. Okay. Now we need to identify the sequence for budget preparation. Okay. So sequence is first cabinet will be agreeing with the financial bill, money bill. Okay. Then it will come for passing of the finance bill, voting on demands, scrutiny by department, passing of the appropriation. So first is scrutiny by departmental houses. Okay. Just the bill is introduced in the house, it will get scrutinized by departmental committees. There are nearly 24 departmental standing committees, 16 from Lok Sabha and 8 from Rajya Sabha. Next thing will be, this will be the first thing. So 3 will be, the answer will be either B or C. Next, they will be voting on demand for grants. So again 3-2. Then after voting, passing of appropriation bill, and then passing of financial bill. Okay. So answer is C. This is the process. So first scrutiny, then voting on demand for grants, then it will go for appropriation bill, means expenditure, and finance bill for the receipts. Okay. Grants made by parliament under extraordinary circumstances. These are the grants. Supplementary grant is when money has been spent on any service during a financial year in excess of the amount granted for that service in budget for that year. An additional grant is grant for special purpose and forms no part of the current service of any financial year. This is not additional grant, this is called as exceptional grant. These are types of grants. And supplementary grant, this is not supplementary grant, this is called as excess grant. You have already spent more than what is allotted in the budget, that is called as excess grant. And special purpose, whenever special purpose comes, that's an exceptional grant. There are few types of grants, that's okay, we will see types of grants in some other lecture. So answer is both are not correct, neither one nor two. A sitting member of one house is elected into other house, his seat in both the house become vacant? No, his seat in first house will become vacant. We have already seen. So this is wrong. Constitution says that legislator found guilty on grounds of corrupt practices during election can be disqualified. He can be disqualified, but that's not what the Constitution says. This is said in Representation of People Act 1951. Constitution does not say it. Okay, so this is wrong. This is also wrong. A house can declare the seat of member vacant if he is absent from all its meetings for a period of 60 days without its permission. This is right. He can be disqualified. So only one. Okay, how many are there? So Constitution lays down that the member of the Lok Sabha must be registered as an elector for a parliamentary constituency. Yes, this is correct. He must be elector. But again, this statement is partially correct. This is not given in Constitution. This is again given in Representation of People Act 1951. So this is partially correct, but statement is wrong. Representation of People 1951 lays down that the member of the parliament must not be less than 30 years of age. This age criteria is not, this is directly given in Constitution. Okay, and not in this act. So this is also wrong. None of the statement is correct. Retiring member of Rajya Sabha are eligible for re-election, re-nomination any number of times. Yes, they are eligible for re-nomination, re-election for any number of times. This is correct. Constitution has provided that the term of the office of member of Rajya Sabha shall be 6 years. No, again, this is not given in Constitution. This is given in Representation of People Act 1951. We will see this act in current affairs in detail. Adjournment not only terminates a sitting but also a session of the house. Adjournment not only terminates sitting but also session of the house. No, it just terminates the sittings. Actually, this should be interchanged. This is adjournment and this is prorogation. So this is wrong. Adjournment is done by the presiding officer while prorogation is done by the president. This is right. Okay. We will move fast. We have to cover other things also. Constitution has prescribed the manner of choosing the representatives of the Union Territories of Lok Sabha. No. What Constitution says in case of Union Territory is that method for choosing the representatives from UTs in Lok Sabha will be given by parliamentary law. Parliamentary law. This is what Constitution says, and as far as now Parliament law has said that same as other states, UT will also be selecting the representatives by voting, direct voting. Okay, so this is not correct. Constitution does not prescribe the manner. It is the parliamentary law. Out of the 8 union territories, only 3 have representation in Rajya Sabha. This is correct. Only Jammu Kashmir, Delhi, Pondicherry. Only these 3 union territories have assembly, hence Rajya Sabha member. So we are done with union parliament. Now state legislature is on the same line, just parallel to union parliament we have state legislature. Only thing that is different in state legislature is legislative council. Other things are generally similar. For example, we will see legislative council. These are not in every state. Legislative bicameralism. This is bicameralism. Legislative assembly and council. Majorly states in India have single assembly, no council. This council thing is only in Maharashtra, Karnataka, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, UP. Only these 6 states have legislative council. We call Vidhan Parishad in Maharashtra. Okay. Now this legislative council, okay, for legislative assembly, the breakup and allocation. Breakup allocation is given in Schedule 2 of Representation of People Act 1950, and breakup of legislative council is given in Schedule 3 of the same act, 1950 act. Okay, and Schedule 1 of 1950 act, Lok Sabha breakup allocation. Okay, so this is breakup allocation. Now further in, for example, if we go on seeing the legislative council, council members, maximum can be 1/3 of legislative assembly or minimum 40. Between these two things, it has to be, the members of legislative council has to be maximum 1/3 of the legislative assembly or minimum 40 members. Among these, for example, in Maharashtra we have, in Maharashtra there are 78 MLCs, Minister of members of legislative council, 78. Out of these 78, 1/3 are elected by MLAs, among others. 1/3 are elected by local bodies. 1/6 are nominated by governor. 1/12, these are graduate constituencies, only graduate candidates can apply here. And again remaining 1/12 are teacher constituency. Okay, so this is the breakup of legislative council. So, and passage of bill in legislative in state is somewhat similar, but thing is that legislative council has minimum control, not much effect as Rajya Sabha in union. Okay, for example, a bill, if a bill passing a legislative assembly, for example, legislative assembly passes a bill to legislative council. Now legislative council can accept, can recommend anything, and for example it can keep the bill with it for 3 months, or accept the bill. If bill is accepted, it will pass, that's not a problem. It can reject and it can suggest amendments. Now if it is rejected and if legislative assembly again passes the bill, it will get passed. If there are amendments suggested by legislative council not accepted by legislative assembly, then also bill can pass. Legislative council cannot do anything. And if a legislative council keeps the bill for 3 months, In Union Parliament, we have seen Rajya Sabha can keep the bill for 6 months, or one of the house can keep the bill for 6 months. Then we will go for joint sitting. There is no such thing joint sitting in state. Okay, there is nothing called a joint sitting in state. If a bill is placed for 3 months in this Legislative Council, then the bill will again be introduced in Legislative Assembly, again passed to Legislative Council. Now second time Legislative Council can keep the bill again for 1 month. If till 1 month they have not taken any stand, then the bill will get passed. Okay, so maximum Legislative Council can hold the bill for 4 months, not more than that. If 4 months have passed, then bill will be passed irrespective of what Legislative Council says. So powers of Legislative Council are limited. So we will straight away move to the questions. State Legislative Assembly can participate in the election of which of the following? Members of Legislative Council, State Legislative Assembly, MLAs, can participate in which elections? We have already seen MLCs, 1/3 are elected by MLAs. So this is right. Legislative Assembly participate in Legislative Council election. Members of Rajya Sabha, yes. MLAs vote for member of Rajya Sabha. President of India, yes, of course. Vice President of India, no. Only Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Here only Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, not the State Legislative Assembly. So only 3. Chief Minister, with respect to Council of Minister, Chief Minister allocates various portfolios. Yes. His death can dissolve the Council of Minister. Yes. His death can dissolve the Council of Minister. Privileges of State Legislature are extended to which of the following? Privileges of State Legislature. We have already seen privileges in the first Union Parliament. Same privileges are applicable here, but they are not applicable to governor, not applicable to yes, only governor. All the members who are eligible to sit in the house, they are eligible. For example, chairman of Legislative Council, yes. Member of Legislative Assembly, yes. Member of Legislative Council, yes. And Advocate General of the state, he can also sit in the house. So privileges are applicable for him also, not for the governor. State legislation. All the members of State Legislative Council, MLCs, are indirectly elected in accordance with system of proportional representation by means of single transferable vote. Yes, for example, 1/3 by MLAs are indirectly elected, 1/3 by local bodies, those are also indirectly elected. Teachers, graduate councils, those are also indirectly elected, but 1/6 those are nominated by governor. 1/6 are nominated by government. So all the members are not indirectly elected. Few are nominated also. So this is wrong. Maximum strength of the House Legislative Council is fixed at 500. No, it is fixed at what? 1/3 of MLAs or 40. So this is also wrong. Answer is neither 1 nor 2. State Legislature. State Legislative Council can detain or delay the ordinary bill for a period of 2 months. We have already seen they can delay the bill by a period of 4 months. 3 months in first time and 1 month after second time the Legislative Assembly passes the bill. Constitution has provided for the mechanism for joint sitting in state legislature. There is nothing called a joint sitting in state legislature. Joint sitting is only available for Union Parliament. So neither 1 nor 2. Chief Minister can be member of either house of the state legislature, but they are responsible only to assemblies. So Chief Minister can be member of either house. You should know it that Council of Ministers, which include Chief Minister or in case of Parliament Prime Minister, they are responsible, collectively responsible only to House of People. Only to House of People. Okay, that means Lok Sabha or State Legislative Assembly, not to Rajya Sabha or Council, only to State Legislative Assembly. Now a minister can be member of upper house also. So though he is a member of upper house, he is responsible only to Lok Sabha or Legislative Assembly only. Okay, so Chief Minister can be member of either house, but they are responsible only to Assembly. This is correct statement. Power status of the State Legislative Councils are broadly equal to the Assembly in approval of ordinances. Yes, this ordinance approval, this is almost equivalent to the State Legislative Council. Okay, so both statements are correct. individual privileges, they cannot be arrested. Privileges, we have seen privileges, they cannot be arrested during the session of the state legislature for any civil cases, criminal cases, preventive cases. No, they can be arrested for criminal and preventive. Okay, civil they cannot be, but criminal, preventive they can be. No member is liable to proceedings of any house in any court for anything said or vote given by him in the state legislature or its committees. Yes, this is correct. They are not liable to proceed. They can say whatever they want. I have already told you that freedom of speech is extended for them, not for us. So 2 is correct and first is not, only 2. Okay, so here we end our parliament and state legislature. Now we will move on to judiciary. Okay. So just a second. So moving on to judiciary, Supreme Court, High Court. We will just stick to Supreme Court and High Court. We will not go to lower than that, district courts, because these are the most important things in the reckoning. Okay, so Supreme Court and High Court. Now, from my point of view, judiciary will be the most important thing in this year's prelims or mains. Okay, most important topic in polity will be the judiciary. Okay, so let us kick start. So judiciary can be studied under these titles: composition, qualification, appointment, removal and jurisdiction. So we will try to complete this. Questions can be addressed in next class, but we will try to complete the things. Okay, composition of judiciary. Now article 124(1), this is regarding Supreme Court. It says there in original constitution there was only 6 plus 1, either 7 or if I am not 7 plus 1. Supreme Court judges are 1 CJI, 1 Chief Justice of India, and along with 6 or 7, I am not exactly remembering the number, it must be 7 Supreme Court judges. This was in the original constitution. Composition of Supreme Court, Supreme Court composition, 6 or 7, just check it, plus 1, that is CJI. This Supreme Court judges and this is CJI. Today it has increased to 33 plus 1. Okay, so composition of Supreme Court is 34, 1 CJI plus 33 Supreme Court judges. Now how they are increased? To increase the Supreme Court judges, increase the number of Supreme Court judges, this is done by parliamentary law. Okay, to increase the number of High Court judges, this will be done directly by President. Okay, High Court judges, if you have to increase the number in High Court judges, President will directly allow, and if you have to increase the number of Supreme Court judges, there has to be a law in Parliament. Okay, so article 124 states that composition of Supreme Court will be dealt by Parliament. Parliament by law we will see the composition. So today composition is 33 plus 1, that is 34. Then comes qualification. Qualification, there are few conditions almost similar for both High Court and Supreme Court. Okay, so for Supreme Court, what is the qualification? First, of course, he has to be citizen of India, that I will not write. Further, 10 years, at least 10 years of High Court judge, or experience of 10 years of High Court advocate, or eminent jurist. These are the three condition of qualification for the Supreme Court judge. 10 years he has to be judge in the High Court, 10 years advocate in the High Court, or an eminent jurist. Now this eminent jurist, this part has now become redundant. This, you can say this is the eligibility criteria, but since the appointment procedure has also changed from time, we will see how are judges appointed, but because of this appointment procedure, this condition is now redundant. This will not follow now. Okay. High Court qualification. This is Supreme Court qualification. If we go on to High Court qualification, first High Court judges. So he has to be at least 5 years judge of a district court or 10 years advocate in High Court. Okay, these are the two conditions for High Court. Sorry, this is 10 years. I have made a mistake here. Supreme Court, for Supreme Court judges, qualification will be 5 years as High Court judge or 10 years High Court advocate. Okay, this is for Supreme Court judge, and for High Court judge, High Court judges 10 years in any judiciary office, which may be district judge, or 10 years High Court advocate. Okay, so these are the 4 conditions, qualifications for Supreme Court judge and High Court judge. These are the qualifications. The most important thing is that appointment of both Supreme Court or High Court judge is done by whom? Done by President. It is done by President, not by Governor. High Court or Supreme Court, done by President only. Now how? Now President appoints Supreme Court judge after getting recommendation from these 3: CJI, Supreme Court, higher Supreme Court judge, and eminent High Court judge. For appointment of High Court judge, he will consult this team: CJI, a consulting CJHC, that is Chief Justice of High Court, and a Governor. So these are the 2 things which you need to remember. To whom? President consults. So President consults CJI, Supreme Court judge, High Court judge for appointment of Supreme Court judge, and he will consult CJI, CJHC, Governor for appointment of High Court judge. Now going into the appointment procedure. Now, as you know, in Article 50 of the Constitution, judiciary and executive has to remain apart. That is, they should not be dependent on each other. They should be independent of each other. We have seen it in PYQs. So to maintain the independency between executive and judiciary, a new system called as collegium system is developed. So this collegium system is developed in these judges cases. In Supreme Court cases only this has developed. So how? So these are the few cases, Supreme Court cases are there, which are named as first judges case, second judges case. So most important is the second and third. First judges case, this is similar. There is a collegium, but if there is conflict between executive and judiciary to whom to appoint, then executive or the government will have its say. Government will have upper hand. Okay, in first judges case. In second judges case, what happened? Supreme Court laid some guidelines. This is important. Supreme Court laid some guidelines. First is that for appointment of any Supreme Court judge, then if a Supreme Court judge has to be appointed, the request should come from that CJI. For Supreme Court judge, request should come from Chief Justice of India. For appointment of High Court judge, request should be arising from CJHC. Next, they said that senior most Supreme Court judge should be appointed as CJI. Okay, senior most judge should be appointed as CJI. So now you know why there is a list of CJI which is already being produced even before next CJI will come. We are knowing the name of next CJI. Today we have CJI Honorable Chief Justice of India, Mr. D.Y. Chandrachud. Next CJI we already know because of the seniority. Third, collegium system was formed. Collegium of Supreme Court, for Supreme Court judge, CJI plus 2 Supreme Court judges. CJI and 2 Supreme Court judges. This is a 3-member committee. They will suggest a name, and it will go to the government and to president to appoint. And if there is a conflict between these two, judiciary and executive, then who will prevail? Judiciary will prevail now. Okay, not government. Further, transfer of judges again by CJI, means transfer is done by president but on recommendation of Chief Justice of India. Okay, so these are the 4-5 conditions in second judge's case. Third judge's case, this is what is inapplicable now. This is applicable today. Third judge's case says, now the collegium has increased. Collegium for appointment of Supreme Court judge, there shall be a CJI plus 4 Supreme Court judges. And for appointment of High Court judge, there shall be a CJI plus 2 Supreme Court judges. Okay. So this is a collegium for appointment of Supreme Court judge and High Court judge. This recommendation will go to government to president will appoint. Here also judges will have their say, not the executive. If in case of conflict, it will be judiciary which will prevail. And next is NJSC. We have seen in the PYQ session, NJSC, National Judiciary Appointment Commission, which was introduced in 99th Amendment Act, in which the appointment committee of judges, they included law minister also, means a man from government, and Supreme Court struck it down saying that it is a violation of Article 50, which says judiciary and executive should be independent of each other. No government officer or minister can be included in appointment of judges. So this was removed. So there is no NJSC today. So whatever appointments are done are on the basis of third judge's case, which has this collegium. Now let's come to removal of judges. Appointment is done, qualification is done, and computation is done. Removal of judges. So Constitution mentions 2 grounds of removal. First ground is misbehavior and proved incapacity. Misbehavior and incapacity. We do not know what do you mean by misbehavior or incapacity. It is not given in Constitution. Constitution just mentions the 2 terms. That's it. And Article 124(4) is the removal procedure given in the Constitution. But what it says, this article says that for removal of judges, there shall be a presidential order. Presidential order after motion has been passed, motion passed to that effect, to remove the judge in both the houses by special majority. Okay. So 124(4) says a judge can be removed by a presidential order only after a motion to that effect for the removal is passed by both the houses by special majority. Okay. But the procedure to remove the judge will be given by parliamentary law. So the procedure is not given in Constitution. What is the procedure? Procedure is given in Judges Enquiry Act. Okay. So I will just quickly sum up the procedure. Judges Enquiry Act says that if a motion is being introduced in Lok Sabha, then 100 member has to pre-sign the motion. If it has to be introduced in Rajya Sabha, at least 50 member has to sign. Then this motion, if introduced in Lok Sabha, will go to Speaker. If introduced in Rajya Sabha, will go to Chairman. Speaker and Chairman both have power to accept or reject this motion. If motion is rejected, the case is over. If the motion is accepted, by Speaker, then it will go to a 3-member committee, which consists of CJI, CJHC and an eminent jurist. These 3 members will investigate the case, and they can also accept or reject. Whatever their report, they will send it to Speaker. If they say that the disqualification procedure has to be carried on or the removal procedure has to be carried on, then Speaker will introduce now this bill into the Lok Sabha, and now Lok Sabha will have to pass it by special majority. That is majority of the House and 2/3 present and voting. Okay. Then it will go to Rajya Sabha. Same, if it is passed by special majority, and then presidential order is also to that effect is executed, the Supreme Court or High Court judge will be removed. The procedure for removal of Supreme Court or High Court judge is same. Both are removed by President only, not by Governor. Both are appointed by President only, not by Governor. Okay, so Governor has minimum role here. So this is the Judges Enquiry Act. So what is given in Constitution regarding removal? That there shall be a presidential order which has to be backed by a motion passed in both the houses by special majority. But the procedure will be given by Parliament. And what Parliament has done, it has enacted Judges Enquiry Act to determine that procedure. And that procedure we have seen. Okay. And one more thing, the process of getting it passed by special majority in Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, President accent, it has to be done within one session. If a prorogation happens, that will lapse. Then there is jurisdiction. Jurisdiction means where Supreme Court can intervene. Okay. For example, Article 131 talks about original jurisdiction. What do you mean by original jurisdiction? For example, a case is there, it can only go to Supreme Court, no other court. Then it is called as original jurisdiction. Okay. Originally to Supreme Court. This is regarding Supreme Court. Okay. I am not talking about. I have talked about Supreme Court and High Court till this part. Now I am talking only about Supreme Court. Okay. This is regarding Supreme Court. First is original jurisdiction, means the case is originally should go to Supreme Court, no other court. So example is conflict between two states. For example, Maharashtra-Karnataka border conflict is there, it will go as a original jurisdiction in Supreme Court, no High Court, nothing. Okay, that is the original jurisdiction. Next is writ jurisdiction. Writ jurisdiction is applicable for Supreme Court in case of violation of fundamental rights only. Okay, if a fundamental rights, that is between Article 12 to 35, if these are violated, 32, if these are violated, then only a writ, Supreme Court will be able to pass a writ against the violation of those rights. We will see this writ jurisdiction in detail in fundamental rights class. Okay. Then appellate jurisdiction. What is appellate jurisdiction? Coming from a lower court, you are appealing it. For example, district court will appeal to High Court, High Court will appeal to a Supreme Court. So appellate jurisdiction of Supreme Court, civil cases, constitutional cases, review cases, criminal cases, all are appellate jurisdiction of Supreme Court. Okay. Then there is special leave jurisdiction, means even if there is no appeal, a special leave jurisdiction allows Supreme Court to take any case from any tribunal, from any High Court, from any kind of judicial office. Okay, Supreme Court can take the case, but it is a discretion of Supreme Court. For example, any case from any tribunal comes to Supreme Court can say yes or no, or it may say that go to High Court first. But under special leave, Supreme Court has a power to accept such petition from any court. Then comes advisory jurisdiction. This is advisory jurisdiction, means President will get advice from Supreme Court, will get advice from Supreme Court on any matter. Any matter Supreme Court can give advice to President. Okay, and this is heard by constitutional bench. If a case comes under advisory jurisdiction by the President, it will be heard by constitutional bench. That means 5-judge bench. 5-judge bench will hear that petition. Recently, Supreme Court Bar Association President Mr. Adish Agrawal has requested President of India to file an advisory petition to Supreme Court with regards to the electoral bond case which was recently struck down by Supreme Court. Okay, so advisory jurisdiction, you may need to see what is exactly written in the Constitution. Please go through it. Review jurisdiction means Supreme Court can review its own judgment. That's the thing. Okay, so these are the jurisdiction available for Supreme Court. Now among these, what are the jurisdiction available for High Court? High Court has in some cases original jurisdiction also. For example, conflict in election of member of parliament, that is the original jurisdiction of High Court, not Supreme Court. Then writ jurisdiction, yes, High Court has under Article 226 you can go into High Court also in violation of your fundamental rights. Although the writ jurisdiction of High Court is wider, because Supreme Court writ jurisdiction will be applicable only to fundamental rights, but High Court's writ jurisdiction is applicable for all the constitutional rights. Appellate jurisdiction, yes, High Court also have appellate jurisdiction in some cases. Special leave jurisdiction, High Court does not have it. Advisory jurisdiction, High Court does not have it. Review jurisdiction, High Court does not have it. Okay, so High Court only have these three, not these three. So now we will go to questions, or something else is there. Yes, something else is also there. Contempt of court. This is quite in news. Contempt of court. Contempt means you are not listening to court. In simple say, you are not listening to the court order. For example, a court has given some order to follow. For example, recently court has given order to SBI to publish all its detail to Election Commission regarding the electoral bonds. But recently, in today's session only, today's session of Supreme Court, it has asked SBI within few days to give each and every detail which has not been given yet. Otherwise, there will be a contempt case on SBI. So what is a contempt case? Civil contempt means you are willfully not abiding the order of Supreme Court. Okay, so you are not abiding by the order given by the Supreme Court. That is called as civil contempt. Now what is criminal contempt? Means you are either demeaning the power of Supreme Court, or you are standing in between the justice process. Okay, so you are basically intervening the justice process, intervening any justice process. That will be a criminal contempt. Willful disobedience of order will be a civil contempt. Okay, then Article 129 gives Supreme Court power to exercise its contempt power. Within Supreme Court can exercise contempt cases on itself and also on the what you call the subordinate courts also. Okay, High Court also can hear the contempt cases on itself as well as the subordinate courts. This is given in Article 215 and Article 129. Contempt of court is not given in Constitution of India. It is given in Contempt Act. Okay, Constitution of India does not define contempt of court. And one more thing regarding judiciary that is in news is Article 142. Now what it says: Supreme Court in exercise of its jurisdiction may pass such a decree or make such order as is necessary for doing complete justice in any cause or matter pending before it, and any degree or past order so made shall be enforceable throughout the territory of India, may be prescribed by or under any law made by Parliament under provision. Basically what it says is, this is the extraordinary power of Supreme Court. This is the extraordinary power under which Supreme Court can intervene in any matter which it sees as an injustice, and it is not being dealt by any parliamentary law, nothing. Then Supreme Court can intervene and directly give order to mark that injustice. Okay, so this is the extraordinary power of Supreme Court. No law can stop it. This was recently used in the Chandigarh mayoral case. Okay, Supreme Court by itself using this power reinstated the mayor of Aam Aadmi Party instead of BJP. Okay, so this is this was in news, so I just thought to be spread out. Again, one example of this article is that of Bhopal gas tragedy. Supreme Court then gave direction to that company to pay compensation to the parties involved. Okay, so that's also a part of 142. So let us move on to some questions. Who among the following takes part in the appointment of High Court judges? Now we have seen this. Who takes part in appointment of High Court judges? Who appoints the High Court judges? President appoints, so he will take part. Now whom the President will consult? He will consult Chief Justice of India. He will consult the Governor of that state also, and the Chief Justice of that High Court also. Not the Chief Secretary, not the Leader of Opposition. So answer is 4. Only 4. Consider the following statements regarding appointments of judges in Supreme Court. Judges of Supreme Court are appointed by a group of judges called as collegium. Yes, this is what the Judges Act say. A distinguished jurist is eligible to become a judge of a Supreme Court. The final approval of President. Yes, he is eligible. Eligible. He is eligible to be a judge, a distinguished jurist. I have shown you 3 cases of applicability of Supreme Court judge. 5 years being a High Court judge, or 10 years High Court advocate, or an eminent jurist. Then I said eminent jurist, that condition is redundant now because of the collegium system. But still he is eligible, right? He is eligible. Now it is not done in that way, but still he is eligible. So both statements are correct. With reference to removal of judges of High Court, consider the following statements. A judge of a High Court can be removed on the same ground as a judge of a Supreme Court. This is correct. A judge of High Court are removed by the order of governor of the concerned states? No. Judges are removed only by presidential order, not governor. Judges Inquiry Act regulates the procedure relating to the removal of judge of a High Court. Yes, this is also right. This is also right. Only 2 statements are correct. Supreme Court has expanded the rights under section right to life and personal liberty. Okay, Supreme Court has given certain sections under right to life and liberty. All of them are correct. Right to privacy, under right to clean environment, primary health, human dignity, free legal aid, all are under Article 21. Okay. Part 3 of the Constitution. Okay, so this deals with fundamental rights. A person whose constitutional rights have been deprived can directly approach Supreme Court for remedy. This is the definition of writ jurisdiction of Supreme Court. In case of fundamental right violation, a person whose constitutional rights has been deprived. Look, what is written here? Constitutional rights means not necessarily fundamental rights. Any right in the Constitution. If it has been violated or deprived, then he can directly approach Supreme Court? No. This has to go to High Court under Article 226. That's why I said High Court's writ jurisdiction. High Court's writ jurisdiction is greater than Supreme Court's writ jurisdiction, because Supreme Court writ jurisdiction is limited only to fundamental rights, while High Court's writ jurisdiction is for all the constitutional rights, including the fundamental rights. So the person whose constitutional right has been deprived can directly approach to High Court, not Supreme Court. So this is wrong. A person whose constitutional right has been deprived can directly approach to High Court for remedy. Yes, this is correct. Every constitutional right is also a legal right, but every legal right is not a constitutional right. Okay. So this is the big circle. We will call it as a legal rights. This is the small circle, which we'll call it as a constitutional rights. Then there are statutory rights. Okay, by law, by constitution. So every constitutional right is a legal right, but not every legal right is a constitutional right. So what is saying? Every constitutional right is a legal right. This is correct. But every legal right is not a constitutional right. So this statement is also correct. So 2 statements are correct. Right to constitutional remedies. Again, Article 32. Only Supreme Court has been empowered by the Constitution to issue writs for enforcement of fundamental rights. Yes, under Article 32 only Supreme Court can, but under Article 226 High Court can also issue writs under. So this is also wrong. Not High Court can also issue writs for enforcement of fundamental rights. High Courts can issue writs for enforcement of fundamental rights and legal rights. Yes. The scope of writ jurisdiction of Supreme Court is wider than High Court? No. Scope of writ jurisdiction of High Court is wider than of Supreme Court. Territorial jurisdiction of Supreme Court is higher, but writ jurisdiction of High Court is higher. The number of judges in Supreme Court can be increased only through a constitutional amendment, only through parliamentary law, not amendment. You need not to amend the Constitution. Okay, so this is wrong. A citizen of India who has been an advocate of High Court for at least 10 years can be appointed as judge of a Supreme Court or High Court. Yes, this is one condition which is common for both High Court applicability and Supreme Court applicability. Okay. Independence of the judiciary from executive is an important reason for the introduction of the collegium system. Yes, this is also correct. Article 50. Collegium system was introduced to maintain the independence of judiciary and executive. Writ jurisdiction of Supreme Court and High Court are fundamental rights. The writ jurisdictions of Supreme Court, High Courts are the fundamental rights guaranteed by the Indian Constitution. Something wrong in the statement. This is same sentence which talks about writ jurisdiction with respect to fundamental rights. They can be given to Supreme Court as well as High Court. Okay. Advisory jurisdiction is available only to Supreme Court. Yes, this is correct statement. Okay. We have seen top 3: advisory, appellate and original. These jurisdictions are available to High Court, but advisory jurisdiction is available only to Supreme Court. This is correct statement. What is available only to Supreme Court? Advisory is available only to Supreme Court. Review jurisdiction is only available to Supreme Court, and special leave jurisdiction, this is only available to Supreme Court, not High Court. A judge of a High Court can be removed only by presidential order. Correct statement. The presidential order should be backed by resolution passed in the concerned state legislature with a special majority. This is wrong. This is not state legislature. This has to be parliament. So answer is C. Additional and acting judges of a High Court. Okay. So I will just tell you one thing here. In case of Supreme Court, and there is a case of High Court. Now I am talking about the judges which are other than the normal judges. Okay, other than the normal appointed judges, what are the types of judges available in these two courts? So in Supreme Court we have, in case a CJI is absent because of anything, then his position will be taken up by an acting CJI. Acting CJI, which will be appointed by President. If in a Supreme Court there is a lack of judges and cases are too much, lack of quorum, then ad hoc judges can be appointed in Supreme Court. That is, ad hoc means temporary judges can be appointed in Supreme Court by the Chief Justice of India. Okay. Acting CJI appointed by President. Ad hoc judges are appointed by CJI. So there are two types of judges other than the normal in Supreme Court, that is acting judges and ad hoc judges. Similarly, in High Court there are again two types of judges. First is additional judges. Additional judges, and second is acting judges. And second is acting judges. Okay. So these additional judges are appointed for less than 2 years and acting for whatever time is required. Okay. So these both are appointed by whom? By President. Okay. And there is one more thing. Retired judges are also appointed by respective court by CJI and CJHC. Okay. But these are the two means. So acting and ad hoc judges in Supreme Court, additional and acting judges in High Court. So there is no ad hoc judges in High Court. Okay. So you should remember it. And these are appointed by President, acting CJI by President, ad hoc judges by CJI. So what is the case here? Both are appointed. What is happening? Additional and acting judges of the High Court. So this question is regarding this. Additional and acting judges of High Court, both are appointed for a temporary period which cannot exceed 2 years. This is partially correct statement, because this 2-year condition is only applicable for the additional judges. Okay. So this is wrong. Both are appointed by Chief Justice of the High Court. No. Both are appointed by the President. So this is also wrong. Neither one nor two. All dispute arising in the connection with the election of President shall be inquired, decided by the Supreme Court. This is correct. This is the original jurisdiction of Supreme Court. Election of the president, dispute in election of the president, directly go to Supreme Court. Dispute in election of member of parliament will go to High Court. The constitution has made respective High Court as the authority to inquire and decide any dispute arising in connection with the election of the members of Lok Sabha. That's what I said now. Okay. So this is right, but problem is constitution does not say it. Again, the Representation of People Act 1951 says it. Okay. So this is wrong. This is right. The collegium for appointment of Supreme Court judges and High Court judges are same in composition. Wrong. I have already told you Supreme Court CJI plus 4 Supreme Court judges, and for High Court CJI plus 2 Supreme Court judges. There is difference in collegium. Distinguished jurists in the opinion of President can be appointed as a judge in the High Court. No, there is no such condition in High Court. This condition is for Supreme Court. Based on collegium's recommendation, the governor of the particular state appoints a High Court judge. Wrong. Governor does not appoint, only President appoints. So none of the statement is correct. To decide upon the disputes between the states of Maharashtra and Karnataka. What is exclusive jurisdiction? What the question is asking about? Exclusive jurisdiction. What is exclusive jurisdiction? Only to that court. You cannot go with the case, respective case, to any other court. Okay. So you can only go to Supreme Court. In which of the following cases? To decide upon dispute between Maharashtra and Karnataka, I have already told you, between two states, it's the original jurisdiction of High Court. So this is correct. To ensure that laws passed by state legislative assemblies are constitutional, means this is talking about judicial review. Judicial review. This can go to High Court as well as Supreme Court. So this is not the condition. This is wrong. Look, judicial review and review jurisdiction, these are two different things. Review jurisdiction means Supreme Court reviewing its own judgment. This is applicable only for Supreme Court, not High Court. But judicial review means you need to check the constitutionality of the law passed by state or a union. That is called judicial review. That is applicable for both High Court and Supreme Court. Okay. So next, to protect the right to freedom of religion for minority sections. Again, this is a fundamental right. Violation of this right, you can go in Supreme Court under Article 32 and you can also go in High Court under Article 226. So this is also wrong. So exclusive jurisdiction only lies for this case, state Maharashtra, Karnataka. You can go in Supreme Court, no other court. For judicial review, you can go to High Court. Right to freedom minority section, fundamental right, you can go to High Court. Special leave petitions. Special leave petitions. This is an extraordinary power of Supreme Court to entertain appeals from any court tribunal. This is the definition of special leave jurisdiction. Concerned High Court should provide a certificate for this purpose? No. There is no need of certificate to go in upper court. Okay. Certificate will be required in case of appellate jurisdiction. Supreme Court of India. It succeeded the Federal Court of India, which was established in Government of India in 1919. No, this is 1935. Okay, so this is wrong. Jurisdiction of the Supreme Court is less than that of its predecessor. This is correct. Constitution of India declares Delhi. Yes, Constitution has measured seat Delhi as Supreme Court seat. Okay, so two statements are correct. Okay, so we have dealt with Parliament, State Legislature, and Judiciary in today's class. So I think Judiciary you need to focus it more, and we will take few points of Judiciary in the current affair class also. Okay, whatever is important. So thank you for the day and all the best.